Hey guys, it's AJ here. Just want to talk to you guys a little bit about my coming out story. And I know some of you guys here are diehard Christians, you might not agree with it, but that's a topic we can smoothly talk about at a different time. But today, I just want to tell you my story. So, I'm going to kind of combine this story as my whole life and a coming out, if that makes sense. Okay, we good. So, I've led a pretty good life, I have had a couple hiccups along the road. I have, you know, I would like to say I've had a couple moments that I can look back on and say haven't been my best, and I can look back on and say that have definitely been my best. Um, Me and my father haven't always had a great relationship. It's one big issue, but another big part of my life is the main focus of this video is my coming out story. So I kind of don't forget, but like to forget everything that happened pre-6th grade. Yes, there was a lot that happened pre-6th grade, but 6th grade is when, for me, things started to get interesting. So in 6th grade, I started to actively go to youth. I started to become a very involved Christian. But also around the time of 6th grade, I began to do things like watch pornography. I began to cuss. I began to, the things you're not supposed to as a Christian. But when I was watching pornography, I began to realize I had never actually paid attention to the female participant. I never even had an attraction to her. That's not something I can change, and trust me, I've tried to pray it away. It doesn't work. It does not work. People have offered me camps. People have offered me pastors who have said they've done it, and don't get me wrong, God can do anything. But in my opinion, you cannot change a person from gay to straight. It just does not work. Studies have proven that it actually harms people more than it helps people. There have been organizations who have completely shut themselves down because they have tried to change gays to straight, and their success rate was unbelievably low. But while paying attention to these men, noticing I wasn't paying attention to the women at all, I decided to click this little button in the corner, gay porn. And that's kind of how I figured out I was gay, by just physical attraction towards, a certain sex in pornography. Obviously, sex isn't the only part of a relationship, but it is most definitely a big part of a relationship. So, paying attention to porn kind of had me off a little bit, because I grew up in a small town, I grew up in the church, just getting involved in youth group, where all of this stuff is supposedly wrong. Yes, I've done my own research and I've done my own everything, trying to not prove that it's right, but trying to see what the Bible truly says, and that's something we'll get to at a later date, and we'll talk about it at a later date. And this video is not open for discussion. This is just me telling you my story, like I said. But going through all of that, into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, it was a very rough experience. Along with figuring out that I was gay, fighting the anxiety and the depression and all of that comes with, being in the closet, being in an environment that's not accepting, when in all reality it was incredibly accepting and wasn't what I thought it would be. So, I want to say spring or late summer or early fall of 9th grade, I told my first person I was gay. And it actually went a little bit like, hey, are you gay? walls went up right away. No, never in a million years. Why would you even ask that question? Like, you know it's not true. To a couple hours later, why did you ask that question? To a couple hours after that, you know what, I think I'm actually bi. To a couple hours after that, actually a day or two after that, kid's name was, actually I'm not going to mention his name, I actually am gay. And that's actually kind of how the first couple of people coming out to and about, telling them I was bi, seeing how they reacted, and then a couple weeks later telling them, what, I actually do like men. And strictly men. So that's kind of how it went for the first couple of people. And once I had a pretty good basis, I went throughout my small friends group, and I actually created a very good basis. And then we were on a trip to Georgia. It was me and my family. And that's how I told my mother. And was actually a very stupid thing. Please don't ever do this. But I texted my mother on vacation in Georgia that I was gay. The only reason I say don't do this is because I was hundreds of miles away from anybody who would have had open arms. And not saying, your parents aren't going to accept it if you are going to come out in the future, but make sure you're in a place that if something do go wrong, you can have an outlet to, you can go to, you can go to someone and talk to about it. You can, maybe stay at a friend's house for the night, whatever you need to do. I did it in Marble Hill, Georgia, at some resort that we were staying at. And luckily, she took it really well. She told my aunt and my stepdad, they took it really well. Told my grandmother, she took it really well. But it was pretty good. Then I got back from the trip, and here's was the hardest person I ever had to tell that I was gay. My youth pastor at the time. And this youth pastor, one of my best friends, and probably always will be. His name's, again, probably shouldn't mention names, but I told him I was gay, and he just looked at me like, are you really? First couple of weeks, I'm going to say, I'm not going to lie, I think he was a little uneasy about it, a little shaken up, but eventually over time, we've developed, a pretty good, this is what it's going to be kind of relationship. I'm not going to say we're both on the same grounds with it, but I'm not going to say we're both completely apart from each other on the subject. But again, loving, accepting, kind. Again, after that, trickled out to a little more friends, and finally came the second hardest group of people to tell, and that was my entire youth group. And I did this at a trip called Youth Convention, and I was actually just there a couple weeks ago, and it brought back some amazing memories, some very sad memories, But the guy at Youth Convention challenged us to sit down and write our actual story. Not the story that you tell people to make you look good, the story that actually is there. So I sat down and I completely wrote this story. I wrote every last aspect of it. It was all wrote out, I actually did it while everybody else was sitting at the park playing games and everything. I got quiet and I just kept writing and I kept writing. I shared my whole life story with my youth group from birth to that moment, They were all loving and accepting, and they were all okay with the fact that I had been addicted to gay porn, and that's how I figured out that I liked men, and they were all okay with the fact that I liked men. They actually joke with me about it. You guys will soon find out through watching my videos. I do joke about being gay a lot, and it's not because I'm anti-gay, but because I'm so comfortable in my skin. So please don't ever think my jokes are against LGBT, because I in fact am myself an LGBT person. So that's a major part of me. I can remember coming out to my dad. When I came out to my dad, I was at my old high school, and my old high school had this huge glass bridge, and we called it the bridge. And I was walking across the bridge, and I'm texting my dad, and I'm like, Dad, what would you think if, what's your views on gay people? And again, made sure I was surrounding myself with people that it would have been a safe environment, whatever. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, he was a little shaken up and iffy about it. That's okay though. I came out to my grandmother not long ago, actually maybe about a year, maybe less ago. Um, Told her I was gay, and her reaction kind of killed me. Not gonna lie, me and my grandmother, my other grandmother, had a very close relationship for a very long time. And then once I told her I was gay, her reaction was, um, no, you're not. Who's feeding you this lie? This is something somebody's telling you. Who's telling you this? I can find you help. The things no teenager wants to hear when they're coming out. You know, that's my coming out story. And if you felt this story was a little too open, a little too raw, a little too, sugar coated, I'm sorry. That's who I am. This is me. This is my story. So,